It's significant, I think, for two reasons. Firstly, the immediate reason is clearly Putin is shopping for weapons and ammunition to use in the war in Ukraine. And North Korea is rumored to be a significant source of those weapons, even though both Russia and North Korea deny it. It's strongly suspected that the North Koreans are supplying them with weapons, but also as a symbolic way of saying to the West in particular, yeah, I flout your petty restrictions. I'm going to make common cause with North Korea, and you're not going to stop me.
This is Kate Borsey. It's the evening edition here on Times Radio. Vladimir Putin then will begin a 2-day visit to North Korea tomorrow. That's according to the Kremlin. It's the Russian president's first trip to the country in more than 2 decades. It's the latest sign of a deepening alignment that's raised widespread international concern. Let's speak to Dr. Jenny Mathers, senior lecturer in international politics at Aberystwyth University and an expert on Russian politics and security. Good evening, Jenny.
Good evening.
Give us the significance of this visit. He's not been to North Korea, Vladimir Putin, for quite some time, but that's because it is pretty much a closed-off country. Why is he being allowed in?
Oh, he's being welcomed in with open arms. So you may recall that back in September, the leader of North Korea, Kim Jong-il, went to went to the far east of Russia, and was welcomed very effusively by Putin. Visited various military technical facilities, and generally sort of had a good time, and invited Putin to come back and visit him in North Korea. And this is Putin saying, yes, I'm going to do that return visit. So it's significant, I think, for two reasons. Firstly, the immediate reason is clearly Putin is shopping for weapons and ammunition to use in the war in Ukraine. And North Korea is rumored to be a significant source of those weapons, even though both Russia and North Korea deny it. It's strongly suspected that the North Koreans are supplying them with weapons, but also as a symbolic way of saying to the West in particular, yeah, I flout your petty restrictions. I'm going to make common cause with North Korea, and you're not going to stop me.
Gosh, goodness. So there's some shopping going on there potentially, and it's all about the symbolism as well. Two leaders who perceive themselves to be incredibly powerful, and we shouldn't, mock that at all. They each have their own power, and together they are more powerful, of course. It's quite rare, isn't it, for Vladimir Putin to make state visits?
It is. He's been to China recently, but apart from that, he tends to stay at home quite a lot, especially since COVID. But also now, of course, the International Criminal Court has got a warrant out for his arrest, so he has to be careful where he actually travels to make himself not vulnerable to being picked up and put into handcuffs. So yeah, it is quite rare for Putin to make a major visit like this. So it has a particular symbolic sort of resonance and significance that he's gracing the North Koreans with his presence.
And what's the significance of him going to Vietnam after this trip?
Well, this is a good question, because one of the things that we've seen since the full-scale invasion of Ukraine is Russia has been redoubling its efforts to reach out to countries, particularly in the global south, those who are not necessarily lining up behind the West to support Ukraine, to try and demonstrate that it can play a leading role in the world, to try and offer an alternative to the US-led hegemonic world system. And so, reaching out to specific countries, trying to strike trade deals, which is almost certainly what he's going to be doing in Vietnam, and just generally trying to improve relations is another way of, again, symbolically, diplomatically saying, we are not, actually, Russia is not a pariah. We laugh at your restrictions. We can actually travel. We can do things. We can strike deals. We are in touch with the majority of the world.
Look, thank you so much for being with us. Really interesting stuff. Dr. Jenny Mathers, senior lecturer in international politics at Aberystwyth University. Thanks for being with us, Jenny. Much appreciated.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has promised North Korea trade and security not controlled by the West. It came in a letter published Tuesday by North Korean state media, where Putin pledged his unwavering support of the isolated state. That was a day after the two countries announced that Putin would visit North Korea for the first time in 24 years for a 2-day trip beginning Tuesday. Putin's letter said, quote, "We will develop alternative mechanisms of trade and mutual settlements that are not controlled by the West and jointly resist illegitimate unilateral restrictions. And at the same time," he added, "we will build an architecture of equal and indivisible security in Eurasia." He also thanked North Korea for supporting what Russia calls its special military operation in Ukraine, and vowed support for Pyongyang's efforts to defend its interests, despite what he called, quote, U.S. pressure, blackmail, and military threats. There have been some signs pointing to what's on the agenda for Putin when he visits. Commercial satellite imagery taken ahead of the visit showed preparations for a possible military parade in downtown Pyongyang. Russian media said there will be one-on-one discussions between Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. And Putin's foreign policy advisor said Russia and North Korea may sign a partnership agreement during the visit that would include security issues. U.S. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller repeated charges this week that North Korea had supplied weapons to Russia for use in Ukraine. Moscow and Pyongyang have denied arms transfers. After North Korea, Putin is set to spend another 2 days in Vietnam.